And we will start with Travis Hines. Travis, unmute yourself and go ahead.
Hey, TJ, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good, thanks. When you went back and watched the tape from Saturday, did what you see reinforce your original thought that was Tyrese's best game of the season?
Yeah, I did. Reason being, the defenses in our league are so good and teams are so physical with your initial action that it's really hard to just like come down and get exactly what you want on one or two passes. So you have to be able to play through longer possessions and then make great decisions on when is it time to attack, when is it time to like get into a next action. And where I felt like Tyrese was particularly terrific is it's like he picked like all the right spots, right? Like every time we should have pushed it, he did. Every time he should have attacked the ball screen, he did. Every time we needed to get to like a secondary action, he did. So like he commanded that entire game in a way that like is, pretty inhuman for a freshman to do. And just, was time and time again made the right decision. And then even with the press, and again, there was a couple possessions where, we weren't as effective as we needed to be, but just really felt like his decision-making and command of the game was really terrific.
Seems to me that this is a time of year that can either be really difficult for freshmen or things kind of lock in and the game starts to slow down. Have you seen that with Tyrese, or I guess just that hypothesis? Do you agree with that guys can either hit a wall and just not be ready to compete at this level, or, they kind of figure it out?
Yeah, I think for freshmen, certainly you get to a point in the season and then like there's been so much more asked of you day in and day out in terms of, practice, film, the extra work you get in, training room, taking care of your body. So you feel like there's so much more on your plate. And for those who embrace that work and that work capacity, you can tend to see guys fade. And it's great to see Tyrese because I felt like he played well in Lawrence, and then to come back and have like his best game was really important. And, we need him to play that well. It's almost an unrealistic ask of what we have for him, but he's been so terrific. He's continued to rise to the challenge. He takes such pride in like running the team and quarterbacking our group and getting us great possessions that it's continued to get better for him. So hopefully that's a trend of and a sign of things to come, that he continues to make that progress as we move forward, because we talk about every day how we need to get better, and him doing that is a big part of us being better.
What's the dynamic for him, where I think from the outside, the thought for him this season was make baby steps, get growth, get better day in and day out. And instead you're here middle of January and it's play 35 minutes a night on a team trying to make the NCAA tournament.
Yeah. No, it says a lot about Tyrese, his character, his work ethic, his mindset. We talk a lot about the mindset and how you approach things, and he's got an unbreakable spirit. He's a tireless worker. He wants information. And I think I've said this before, like he wants real information. He doesn't want a coach that's telling him what he wants to hear. He wants direct, honest feedback where he can improve. And it just says so much about him that in a game with that degree of physicality and what we're asking of him, that over 35 minutes or whatever it is, that he can play at such a high level in a game that has that level of physicality is just really impressive.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, TJ, for this game against Tech, I'm just curious, looking back on the film from last time, what needs to change offensively so it's not as big of a challenge to score, like it was in the first 7-8 minutes of that second half?
Well, our physicality, where we get our catches is so important, to start our possessions. When we enter the elbows, we want it to be the elbows, not one step beyond or outside of it. And we want our guys to catch that ball and, and face the basket in a physical, we call it step down and being triple threat, but like we want it to be physical. So I'd say this, like we missed some really good shots to start the second half against them, which if you make them, it puts more pressure on your opponent, both at the rim and, wide open threes. I'd say the other part of it is, picking the right spots to push, and then when we need to run offense. And there was some of those mixed in there. So I think it's an intentionality to how we do everything. When is it time to push? When is it time to pull it out? When we go to the elbows, it's got to be physical. When we drive the ball, it's got to be with physical force, toughness. So we can't leave anything to chance. And I think that was something we did there to start the half. And then you just become a little bit tighter because now you start questioning, is this the right shot or the right play? And we don't want our guys thinking about it. We want their instincts and their work to take over. In order to do that, you've got to have an intentional mindset every single possession to get the best one you can.
Seems like part of that physicality can maybe come from the play of Robert. It seems like the last handful of games, he's kind of found a little bit of a groove on the offensive end, getting to the free throw line. What have you seen from him on the offensive end?
Yeah, we call Robert Instant Impact, is like, it's his nickname, because we believe when he goes in the game, he has that ability to impact the game, from that first possession. And certainly a lot of that impact has to do with the physical nature of how he plays. It's physical screens, physical catches, physical ball screen defense, physical rebounding energy, physical rim protection. And so he helps us in so many ways that way. And we certainly play to the strengths of George when he's in, affording him the opportunity to facilitate and help us generate offense. And when Robert's in, he serves as a great screener, physical player, a guy that, he brings that physical mentality to our team, and it gives us a greater degree of physicality as a group following his lead. So really proud of Robert, how he continues to work every day and embrace his daily habits, because you're seeing him continue to improve.
Jared Stansberry, go ahead.
Hey, TJ. With all those things you talked about going against Tech on the offensive end, how valuable is it then just to have played them once and to know the physicality that they play with, to see their scheme in person and things like that? I mean, a lot of these guys had not ever seen that before you guys played them that first time. And I know you mentioned last week or maybe the week before just how difficult it is to simulate that in practice.
Yeah, it is. Like, they are extremely physical, as physical as anybody we've played, in terms of every catch is tough. They're an elite defensive team. They're good on the glass. They're good guarding cutting. So it is a very, very physical game. And we've not shied away from the fact that we want to be the more physical team. And what that means against them is extreme. I mean, because they are physical. So, we've got the game under our belt, so we know what it's going to be, but now it's going to be going on the road in a tough atmosphere environment, staying together, staying physical, being intentional. And it's just, those challenges are even greater on the road. We're fortunate when we're at Hilton, we've got the benefit of a great fan base, an unbelievable home court advantage. And when you're on the road, you kind of have to have a mentality like it's, your team against the world, and you've got to stick together. You've got to maintain that physicality. Even when the emotion of the crowd or the game settles in, you've got to stay the course and keep telling yourself, this next play, we're going to be more physical. We're going to be more aggressive.
Matt Bellinson, go ahead.
TJ, I think Isaiah called the last game against Tech a rock fight. I'm curious, just from your vantage point as a coach, knowing how this team wants to operate when it's at its best, do you feel like that's a type of game, like, a rock fight? You guys are kind of comfortable in that scenario? You're not really, fazed by that type of game?
Yeah, I think our guys have shown that, we can play that style of game and win that style of game. We've had a few where, where it's been more of a challenge to score. I mean, specifically the Tech game. And then I felt like we had stretches, a different game, when even like with Creighton on the road, we'd missed some plays early in the second half. And it put us in a spot where we were a little bit tight and a little bit pressed offensively. And then eventually in that last 4 minutes or so, our offense came around. So we've got to be able to, in this league, every night out, embrace the challenge in the game that's in front of us. And we've seen how effective and physical teams are defensively. So you've got to be prepared to say there's going to be nights where you may not score for multiple possessions in a row. That's not just us, that's other teams also. And that your defense isn't going to change. You're going to play physically tough, intentionally, and your defense isn't going to be predicated on offensive success. So I think that's a game that we've prepared our guys mentally that we know we can do well in. We just have to continue to stay the course and not have our offense affect our defense.
All right, that's all we have for you, Coach. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.